Here we go, everybody. I'm ready. Let's do this. Let's do this. And boom! What's up, everybody? I sound like Lacey Green. What's up, Lacey? All right, you guys. Hey, I'm not going to keep you long, but I am going to share with you some information today that I believe you will find quite interesting. And the information that I'm going to share with you is the difference between three types of salmon. You have wild salmon, then you have farm raised salmon, and then you have wild caught salmon. Now, if you had to guess before I dive into it, which one would you believe is the least healthiest for you? And which one would be the healthiest? And which one would be in the middle? Now, many of you probably buy salmon on a regular basis, and you're like, well, wild caught means wild. Well, it doesn't. And that's why this is some good information. Now, before I dive in, my name is Robert Ferguson. I share because I care. I'm a nutritionist and a guy who is on a mission to not just help people, but position people in a position where you are in charge and you have the knowledge where you can make decisions that are decisions that actually contribute back to your health. Because there's people eating salmon, for instance, and if it's the wrong type of salmon, they may be doing more damage to themselves thinking that they're being healthier. And you want to know the difference. Now, everything that I'm going to share with you today is brought to you by our Detox Drop. There's a link below. You can learn more about that. The detox is a great way to kickstart everything. You're not starving yourself. You don't have to stand by the bathroom, but it definitely works. And when you go to the website and you look at it in the store, you will see that there's some testimonials, and these are real people sharing some real awesome feedback. And this has been the works for over 20 years. And you know what? We just made it better. So if you did it 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, what you did is not this. Okay. So it's important for you to know that. All right. Now let's get to the nitty gritty. For those of you who are catching me, I want to say thank you for being here. And before I really dive in, I want to just throw it out there. If you're catching me live, let me know. And even if you catch the replay, just go on there and just say, "Hey, Robert, like the information that you shared. That was insightful." Or maybe share with me something that I missed. Or if you didn't like it, let me know, because I don't want to share information that isn't benefiting people. I really don't. Oh man. Oh, and before I forget, we have our virtual conference coming up this month. We're weeks away now. We are weeks away. It's a conference online, on demand. You can be there live the entire time, or you can be there live for a little bit at a time. You can catch the replay on demand. You can go back to it and check it out as often as you want. But we're going to cover quite a bit. And today, as I share information about salmon, this is a prime example of food as medicine. However, it's food as medicine with clarity. Because again, if you're not consuming the right food and you're going on just a little bit of information, you may not be getting the benefits that you believe you're supposed to be getting. Okay, so we're going to talk about salmon. Now, before I dive into that, some of you are my clients, so you are fully aware of what I'm about to share. And some of you are my clients, and maybe I haven't had a chance to share this with you. And some of you used to be my client, and I'm glad you're catching up and doing what you can to stay informed. And some of you are catching me for the very first time. But we're going to talk about the truth about salmon. Okay, so as I mentioned, there's three types of salmon for the most part, and there's actually a fourth type of salmon. I'm not going to get into it. Okay, we can call it farm raised, but it is really interesting. It's almost like lab raised, but not in the lab, but it's close, like Frankenstein type of thing. So there's actually four types of salmon, which we could take the one that's about to be introduced to the world and put it into the farm raised. really interesting when I share that with you guys. And I'm going to touch on that inside of our food as medicine course. I'm going to show you a cool video on what's been going on over the last 20 plus years and what's about to be really just slip right into our food supply. And if they get it their way, you won't even know that it was grown the way it's grown. You'll just see on the label, hey, salmon, and then eat the salmon. Okay. So it does help to understand and to know. Okay. Uh okay. So someone made the comment that farm raised, and thank you for making this comment, is least healthy. Yes. Now there's some people who argue with you about this. Um, but farm raised is going to be the least healthy. And let's just go ahead and just go right there. Farm raised is raised in a farm, oftentimes in the ocean. And what they're feeding these fish is not what they would get in the wild. And one of the big differences between farm raised and, let's say, wild or wild caught is that farm raised is going to, ounce for ounce, is going to have more calories. It's going to have more fat. And if you know some of the benefits from eating salmon, you will hear people talk about omega-3 fatty acids, which there's a good amount of data that supports how omega-3 fatty acids helps with reducing inflammation, can be good as far as for our eyes, and be just good for overall health. Okay. And it is essential. And so if you didn't know what I just said, or if you only knew what I just said, you may read a package and the package may say higher or highest in omega-3 fatty acids. Well, it would be, because if it has more overall fat, then it's going to have more omega-3 fat compared to wild salmon. But it also is going to come with a whole bunch of other stuff that you may not want to be eating. Okay? And that's important. Now, some highlights that I wanted to share with you is that the popularity of salmon is only surpassed by canned tuna and shrimp. Salmon is something that people are eating everywhere. 70% of the salmon that is being bought, okay, and consumed is farm raised. And what I'm going to share with you right now, I would say 90% of people are not aware of this. Now there's mainly 6 different kinds of salmon eaten in the United States. And people will tend to choose salmon primarily based on its color. Now, with about 2/3 or 70% of the salmon coming from farms, a lot of this is not coming from the US. It's being shipped all the way from Chile, Norway, and Canada. Now, there's definitely farms in Maine and Washington, and I've seen both of them. I've seen farms in Maine as well as Washington. And I hate to demonize farm raised, because some farm raised salmon, they do go the extra mile, but nothing compares to wild salmon. Okay, on all levels. You want wild salmon if you're going to eat it. Now, it doesn't taste as good, but it's better for you. Now, when I say better for you, case in point, in 2003, I remember the Environmental Working Group, they published these findings on farm-raised salmon where that farm-raised salmon was much higher in environmental and organic pollutants. And that's mostly because of how they're raised and how they're fed. Whereas wild, that doesn't mean that you're not going to get any pollutants, because they're out there, and there's bottled waters in the ocean, etc. But least contamination you have to deal with. Well, if you fast forward to most recently in the last 10 years, it's better farm raised when they've tested the farm raised, not the same level of toxic chemicals. So it is definitely better, but it's still not why people are talking about eating it. Okay. Now, when I look at wild salmon compared to farm raised salmon, the color is key, because you want to get to a place where you can look at the salmon and know whether it falls into the category of farm raised or if it falls into the category of wild, to include wild caught. Now, farm, I think we all get that. Wild caught means that at one point in the life of that salmon, it was had some type of human interaction or human interference of its growth and how it was nurtured. So you have hatcheries that mimic the wild, and these were made available and created because we thought we were going to run out of salmon. And so the goal was to raise salmon wild, but in controlled wild, and then put them into the wild. So that's the difference. So would I eat wild caught? Yes, I would. But if I'm going to get wild caught or wild and they're right next to each other, I'm going to choose wild, because they're starting to do tests. And what they're noticing is that the wild caught salmon is missing some of the genetic benefits or the codes of the wild salmon. So something is missing when there's a little bit of human nurturing of that salmon. Now, it's not the same as farmed, because it's definitely eating krill and all the things that a wild salmon would eat, but in a controlled environment. And then eventually it's thrown into the wild, and then eventually it gets caught. Wild caught. Now, the big difference is going to be the color. The wild salmon is going to be more reddish, deeper pink compared to the farm salmon. The farm salmon, if it didn't consume certain supplements or food, let's say supplements, that would cause it, synthetic supplements that would cause it to become pink, it would be a milky gray color. And they've done tests. People will not buy a milky gray salmon. So that's why the color is the color. Also, when you see more white lines in the salmon, that's a sign that it's farm raised as well. And that's also a sign that it has more fat. Now, what I like about wild caught salmon is these carotenoids. And you've probably heard of carotenoids, because carotenoids is what gives carrots the color that they have, or tomatoes the color that they have. Like when you see a flamingo, right? And you see those pink feathers, that's because the flamingo ate algae and it ate brine shrimp, and that's where it got those colors. That's carotenoids. Well, in the wild, okay, with the salmon, wild caught as well as wild, naturally the salmon is consuming carotenoids, including as astaxanthin, which can also be manufactured and put into a supplement form, and that's what's fed to farm raised salmon. So they don't get the deep, rich, orange, reddish color that wild salmon would get, but they do get a pinkish color, and that's how they're given that color. I don't believe that they're now they may I've heard that they're dyed, but I don't have any way to confirm that. I do know that there's synthetic astaxanthin. And the thing that I don't like about astaxanthin, and this is a take home, food is medicine, is that synthetic astaxanthin that's fed to these farm raised salmon is produced from petrochemicals in a laboratory. Petrol, gas. You hear what I'm saying? I don't like that. Whereas when the wild salmon is getting their astaxanthin, they're getting it naturally from eating the algae, eating shrimp, getting it naturally through uh, what's available to them in the oceans, okay, in the lakes, etc. So eating close to nature is always going to be best, you guys. Eating close to nature is always best. Eating close to nature is always best. And the one thing that you don't want to do is find yourself thinking you're doing something right, only to find out that you are doing something wrong. That's my main take home for today. That's why I'm making available food as medicine, because you deserve to be informed. And when you're informed, you're less likely to be influenced by those who are misinformed. And when I say misinformed, What I'm referring to is that sometimes people just regurgitate what was taught to them. So they were misinformed. So they're not doing it to be evil or to be mean. They're doing what they're doing because they believe what they're sharing is accurate information. So they're misinformed. So that's a nice way to say it, right? And one of the biggest challenges when it comes to nutrition and weight loss and health is that we have a lot of misinformed people influencing uninformed people. So with the food as medicine, conference course certification, my goal is to put you in a position where you're informed. And when you're informed, then you're not misinformed. And as you share information with other people, that's a win-win. Knowledge is power. But there's some people that don't want to know. They don't want to know the truth. They don't want the knowledge. They don't want clarity around nutrition. And they would rather just kind of just go from the gut and just hope that they know. Well, my recommendation is don't fall prey to that. Take action. The same as people who are into printing, as far as a business, hairstylists, network marketers, all of these different professions that are out there, they all go to conferences, whether it's live in person or whether it's virtual. But they go with the goal of acquiring knowledge and information, of course, getting themselves motivated and being around like-minded people. That's important. But you don't have to be that to understand the benefits of doing it. And that's why we're doing this virtually this time, so that you don't have to buy a plane ticket. You don't have to get a hotel. I mean, the cost of this virtual conference is what you would pay more for food if you had to go and travel to go to this. So you can eat at home, be at your own kitchen. I have some people tell me that they're going to go get a hotel room and just because they want to be around. They want the feel of being away. It may be like a staycation, and they're just going to go to a hotel room and they're going to like listen in and they're going to like soak it up and they're going to take notes. The only part that will be kind of missing is the camaraderie. But in our webinars or seminars that are part of the conference, there will be an opportunity for people to share and interact. And right now we're putting together a couple of panels where you can have some people kind of asking questions that don't absolutely know everything, but want to know. And I think having that interaction with people as they're having an interaction makes it feel like you're there. So whether a person caught it on demand or you actually get to be there live on October 27th, 28th, then hey. And if you missed it and you're hearing this months later, weeks later, a year later, then just go to our website at dietfreelife.com, because this is not the only one. This is our first virtual one. And eventually there will be a live one in person and in color. That's what I'm talking about. All right, you guys. Anyway, if you haven't signed up, I strongly recommend you sign up sooner than later, because we're going to start leaking information. Today's date is October 3rd. By the 5th of October, we will start leaking information. And when I say leaking, that means just sharing a little information all the way up until we get there. And my recommendation for those of you who are going to be at the conference, right, live or on demand, get yourself a 3-ring binder somewhere where you can put all of your notes. There's going to be downloads that will be made available. And then make it your Bible, like something that you can reference and go back to. Because, you learn things and then it's easy to forget. Like we're talking about salmon right now, and you could easily market salmon. And then if you had a question or you're like, what did he say? Oh, carotenoids. Let me look that up. And then you'll go there and there'll be information so that you better understand what carotenoids are, right? They also include beta carotene, and people hear about that all the time with carrots. Lycopene. Look at that red, tomato. Uh, uh, Lutein. Like all of these things like are part of it. And so then you start knowing, okay, I know what to look for. I know what to look for. So anyway, any questions for me while you got me live? Okay, we know there's 3 types of salmon. There's a 4th one. I'm going to call that one Frankenfish or Franken salmon. Okay. Because it's definitely on the Franken side. And who knows where all that's going to go. But if you looked up on Google or go to YouTube and just look up salmon, Franken fish, you'll probably see exactly what we're going to be sharing during the conference. All right. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you. You guys have a good one. Until the next one, I'm Robert Ferguson. Peace out.